here to give a talk to people who are not LIRs, but I didn't have too much time to modify the slides. So I assume that you are users and customers of those members of RIPE NCC, and we don't talk to you normally. So that's why I'm not officially representing RIPE NCC, because we don't want to our members. And if you have any questions, don't ask anything because there is no time. So wait until everything is finished, and then we go to Slacker Salon and talk.
Broadcasting HQ.
Actually,
next to the server.
So this is what I will try to talk about. Very short introduction. Some talk about how the addresses are distributed in Europe, and about DNS. If Maria doesn't show up, if she does, then she can talk much better about this. And if there is time, then other topics too. There is RIPE and there is RIPE NCC, and they are completely different. RIPE NCC is an organization that I'm working for, which is a regional internet registry which distributes IP addresses, and RIPE was there before. It's a community of network operators who, it's something like IETF, they come together and talk about things that they have to agree upon, and then they implement those decisions which are based on consensus. So everyone can take part in
Yes, that's
RIPE.
correct. When I try to
Meetings,
start
RIPE working groups,
my
RIPE everywhere. So RIPE is something we
just
do,
wait
and
a
RIPE
moment,
NCC
and
is
then
for
it's
those
never-
big providers who can pay to become members of RIPE NCC and get services from RIPE NCC. Why there was a need at all for RIPE NCC? Well, members of RIPE, or people who participate there, are volunteers, and they didn't have time to actually do work that was required, maintaining the WHOIS database, organizing all the meetings, and therefore they created this organization, professionals, to work on all these things and other issues. When they had RIPE NCC in place, they said, okay, maybe we can use this organization to also distribute addresses to all of us.
I'm at the Barclays, and where are you?
All the rules that we agreed upon. So in '92, they made RIPE NCC that was only people part of Helena research organization, research network. And in '98, it was registered as a stichting in Amsterdam. And right now it has more than 70 people from all kinds of different countries, as you can hear from my accent. So what do? What RIPE community tells us to do, theoretically? Well, in practice, it works like from the RIPE meetings, all the activities and action points are put together into something called activity plan. So all of you can influence that, but then activity plan and the budget is proposed to membership, which votes on that and accepts it. So everything is on the website, everything is published, and you can go and see what RIPE NCC is doing. It's RIPE.net. Then there are some member services and some other services. So member services is address space, reverse delegation, and something new called test traffic measurements. We don't register domain names. And the most important of public services is the WHOIS database. WHOIS database is just a public place where network operators can register their address space and a lot of contact information. Software is written by RIPE NCC. It's not, well, it is right now rewritten, and it is on MySQL. But the queries are not relational. The queries are based on a WHOIS protocol. The data itself is not owned by RIPE NCC, and it's also not responsibility of RIPE NCC. Since it's a public database, anyone can use it, anyone can create objects and delete objects and so on. I won't be talking too much about that. There is a forum which discusses requirements for the database. That's database working group in the RIPE community. So you can go there and take part in that. There is a new mailing list where you can ask stupid questions, and then someone will give you an answer. You can also ask clever questions, and you can answer somebody else's questions. It's called database help. In April, the software or the specifications of how the routing announcements are described in the database has been changed to RPSL, and I will also not talk about that, but there is a lot of information on the web. So what's in there? Network objects to describe the address space, domain objects not to describe domain names, but to describe reverse domains, a lot of routing information as a part of the routing registry, and contact information, person and role object. So the server address is whoisthedrive.net. You can download clients from our FTP site. You can also download server software from our FTP site, and also snapshots of the database content. And the functionality described in so-called guide documents, which is something like RFCs. If I'm talking too fast, that's intentional. So what did we have? We had classes A, B, and C, which create a lot of problems, and then people started inventing other solutions, and finally we are now with CIDR, classes into domain routing, which should enable us to make flexible size networks and use that plus hierarchical distribution of address space. We are now not so much worried about inflation of IPv4. Here are all the possible, or some of the possible sizes of the network that you can have. And right now we're using so-called slash notation, which is assigned slash and the number of bits in the network part. And we never ever want to hear anyone say plus C anymore, so be there. So if you want to get your IP addresses, you go to an LIR, local internet registry. Only if you want a lot of addresses, then you become a member of RIPE-NCC. So the local internet registry is usually an ISP, but more often it's also a telecom operator, a bank, or anyone who wants to get an independent local address space directly from the regional registry. And then there are two terms which we insist on so that we know what we are talking about to each other. RIPE-NCC allocates address space to the registry and to the LIR. And then LIR assigns address space to you. So assignment is something which is used in operational networks. And the main difference there is that LIR cannot make an allocation of big address space that is not going to be immediately used by you. Then there are some procedures on how do we work on the conservation of address space. There is something called assignment window, which means how much addresses your LIR can assign you for 12 months without asking NCC for approval. And then so later on they can earn a bigger assignment window. And all these rules are described in several RIPE documents and in some RFCs, and they are all being rewritten because they are very old now. So if you are concerned about that, you can take part in the discussions that are going on. Even more terminology, provider aggregatable address space, which is the address space that we usually talk about. That is a big block of addresses allocated to LIR, and then they make assignments from that block, and they can aggregate all those internal routes and announce the whole allocation as one route, which is great because then the routing tables stay smaller. On the other hand, if you change your provider, you have to return address space to them. You have to renumber into address space of another provider. There is another type of address space called PI, provider independent, which is there still for some special cases for networks that wish not to renumber when they're changing providers. And that is given straight from RIPE-NCC to end user, but since we don't go to end users, then you still have to go through existing local internet registry. Usually this space is much smaller, and there can be some routing problems because some providers are going to filter on the printing size. We also recommend everyone to use private address space if possible, and then there are some new terms getting into our jargon from America mostly, which is portable address space. That means either an allocation or the PI assignment, and since recently also IPv6 space. So this is what your LIR will do if you ask for address space from them. They will first look into what you say you need. Is it reasonable? Then they will compare it with their assignment window size, and if that is sufficient, they will just go on, give you some range, keep details about that, and then update the right database. So they have to create a network object where they will say that this network belongs to you. They will include the link handle pointing to your person object with your phone number and everything, and the date that the network was created. If they don't have appropriate size of assignment window, they will have to ask RIPE-NCC for approval for that request. So, these are the rules. Maria, come here. It's your place. These are the rules that all the LIRs have to follow, and also that RIPE-NCC has to follow when looking into all the requests that you are or they are sending. So we have to be fair to everyone. We have to pay a lot of attention to conservation of address space. Aggregation is also playing a lot in these decisions, and everything has to be registered. Evaluation criteria are coming from this old RFC, which means if you are now asking for 100 IPs, you have to prove that you are actually meeting right now 25%, and that you will use 50% within 12 months, because you should have plans for maximum 2 years in the future. Then your LIR and we also cannot make any further reservations. So we can't say, okay, we'll give you now 100 addresses for next 2 years, and then we will also spare something for just in case. We should not do that. We also should promote dynamic solutions, so dynamic dial-up and non-static, HTTP 1.1, and we enforce renumbering. The documentation has to be presented from you to your registry and from your registry to us. And all the contact persons have to be relevant and have to up-to-date contact information so that other operators can get in touch with you if your network is giving any problems with them, or if they want to talk to you for some other reasons of clearing a contact. That was a part about address space and how that is distributed. Do you have any questions? Wow. Did you ever have to talk to an LIR? Do you want to talk about that experience? Okay, was it good? Can I see hands? Was it a good experience? I mean, good in the sense that you got your address space in reasonable time? Yeah? Okay. Was it bad? How many of you had bad experience? 1, 2, 1.5, 3, 4, okay, more. Okay, that was about address space. Now I'll see with Maria how are we going to proceed. Then I'll continue for 10 more minutes, and then Maria will take over after me. So this is what RIPE-NCC is doing as far as reverse delegation procedures are concerned. I'm not going to talk about bigger address spaces, just /24 zone, which is basic for all the other procedures. The problem is, again, these slides are usually used for LIRs, so I haven't had time to change them. So reverse delegation, the problem is it happens on object boundaries, and we assign address space classlessly. So even if we give a bigger block of address space to an LIR, we can do reverse delegation only per/24. These are the blocks that belong to RIPE NCC, and we are responsible for reverse delegation for all these blocks. Why should you have that? Well, otherwise you won't be able maybe to reach some of the FTP servers or whatever. And we are also responsible for the quality of DNS in our region, so we would like all the LIRs to actually set up reverse DNS correctly. And if you, as a user, have any problems with that, it is responsibility of LIR to make sure that reverse delegation for their address space is functioning. So now you can learn how that is done, and then you can go back and teach them how to do that. So the procedure is kind of straightforward. LIR has to request a reverse delegation to be made to them per/24, so it doesn't happen automatically. They don't have to run the server, you can be the one to run the server, however, they have to send this request to RIPE NCC. Here are the steps, I'll be talking about them in detail. So the assignment needs to be valid. That means that they have to give the address space to you only within the size of their assignment window, and it has to be registered correctly in the RIPE database. This can create some problems if everything is not done correctly. Then the zone setup, we have only one requirement, and that is 2 name servers are necessary, 1 primary and at least 1 secondary. Then some recommendations. Start of authority values compliant with this RFC. Name servers should not be on, they should be redundant. Then serial number human readable. Use names of name servers in the domain object, which is like a request form. There used to be an old method, or I can't do this. Okay, here, this line here. There is an attribute reverse server in the network object. Some local registries are still using this method. It doesn't work. So they will think that they have set up reverse DNS, but they haven't. So this has to be changed. And just small specific things on the database. So the domain object, this is how objects in the RIPE database look like with the following command. So who is -t flag for the template? You can get the template of the domain object. How to complete it, who is responsible for the zone, and at least 2 name server lines. This object can be protected. I won't talk about protection mechanisms because there's no time. Yes?
These name servers don't have to be IP numbers themselves?
They should not be IP numbers. They should be names. Because then you can refer to them as names. If you move them from one part of your network to another, we don't care as long as the name stays the same.
Names are allowed to be an IP number. In other words, if it's a root spot, it's not allowed to be an IP number.
So the request itself is a database object sent to our robot called Marvin. The address is auto-inadder, and you can't do this because you are not the local internet registry, but you can tell them how to do it. So this robot will check all these things that are mentioned, and then we will create an entry, and we will put on in our zone file a pointer to the name server that was specified in the domain object. Any errors, just you can talk to a human, which is inadder@front.net. There is a good frequently asked question list. So this is a little bit of a trick how to use the CNAME for giving smaller chunks of address space to people who want to run their own primary name server. So it's possible, and this is how it is done in the RFC mentioned previously, there is another notation used here, which is slash, but in our opinion this is better, so you just have to create some name here and to use an alias to point to another name server. And how you are going to choose the name, it doesn't really matter, but our recommendation is the first address of the range dash and then the last address, so from the name it's already obvious how many addresses belong to Goody2 shows or to Cyber Colabo. It doesn't have to be the cider block. So these people have 40 IPs, well that's fine. If someone doesn't want to run their own primary, then an LIR has to have a pointer record for every single host there.
How do you do them? Say, all primary and secondary next to it, when you say that.
Well, you shouldn't have it on the same network. Ask someone here to run secondary for you. And that's it. Any questions about this?
Hello? Question. Are those sheets somewhere available on the internet?
There will be, there are already on my homepage on Access for All, but I'll post the URL or I'll just give them to HAL people to make them available on the HAL website. And also on the right.net, there is, these slides are part of the training material, so if you go there, even if you're not a member, you can just get all the slides in PowerPoint, HTML, all kinds of information. So that's it. Okay, 2 seconds.
Alright, it was an interesting background. Didn't you see the background?
Yeah.
But I didn't get it on camera.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah. I'll have we used to work at right NCC from the beginning. We're still with 5 now. So they made quite an experience. You still on them? I tell you, this projector is correct.
I had some problem from email, so I had to translate everything in this today. So some of the parts here is in Swedish, and well, I hope you don't mind. I'll translate for you. I'm going to do a quick review of the DNS system. It's well, mostly it's basics, because well, there is some new functionality and so on, but I think that will be covered in the DNSSEC talk later on. So, and I haven't got the time to translate that too, so I'll just skip it. And also some administrative things like the politics and organization, but I won't cover that either. Just the basics. See this one? So what's DNS? It's the world's largest distributed database. It's well, I don't think that anyone of you haven't heard of, or haven't used DNS at some point. It should be quite hard to script because you don't remember that much IP in your head. DNS is the RFC's 1034 and 1035, and it's a unique namespace. You can't find the names you find in DNS anywhere else. DNS is not many of you might know. It's a lot of queries, but not direct searches. So it's not like your regular SQL database. It's you just have to use the right tools to query without search. And it's a distributed administration, which means that well, anyone who has a name server can be a part of the administration.
That's one.
From months ago or so, and it also
That's one.
history. Once upon a time, it was post.txt. It was fetched with FTP and was administered by one single organization. But the number of those started to grow a bit, and after a while it wasn't bearable to have this file because the changes in it was happening too quickly, and the system got slow. So some people started to build a more scalable system, which became DNS. And DNS is today almost exactly what it was when it started. Some minor changes, but they built such a good system that it's still scalable. The protocol, DNS, it's mostly a UDP protocol. But it also talks HTTP on board. A common problem that I've heard of when I was working at the CCTV for Sweden was that many thought that